Hi guys, welcome to the Professional Idiots podcast. I'm Timo from Critical.
And I am Yi from Life.
All right, tell us about yourself, did you?
I am a graduate student of communications and informations. For those who don't know what that means, is that I am a mass media graduate. I know about TV, radio, and of course social media.
Uh,
What about you, Timo? What are your fields of expertise?
that's a good question. I'm an engineering entrepreneur who basically works everything. I'm an MIT master's graduate and currently am a Harvard student, which is unfortunate because now uh, I have to do more schooling. Yeah, isn't that always fun?
Yeah. And you all may be wondering how is this random guy that studied communications friends with this Harvard student. Well, funny. The two of us met back in high school over in Mexico.
Oh man.
Um, those were quite the days, weren't they?
Oh yeah. Where do we start? Like that's there's some like good and bad things about the whole thing.
Yeah,
What?
it's
Now everyone, don't be intimidated. I'm more or less a massive idiot. So yeah, just
we're
putting that out there.
this podcast exists to show you that even the what some may consider the brightest of minds are still idiots deep within their hearts.
Yep. um, and I know we're both two big ass idiots.
We're very, very much stupid.
All right.
uh, the only reason why we're still alive is probably dumb luck.
Hey, remember, jellyfish have survived a millennia despite not having brains. So I think I think we got some
we
pretty
have
good
we have something
statistics.
going here. We have something going for us.
Yeah, got some good odds. So where do you want to
uh,
start with all this?
well, I think it's important for people to know about us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to not be intimidated by being two random people in the internet. Get us down to earth. Show our weakest parts. Um, talk about our youth
Ah,
because holy shit, is there a lot to talk about from our youth.
well, you can start. I got a lot of baggage I could unpack.
Yeah, we got to talk about how much we actually hate each other despite almost 10 years of friendship.
Dinkelberg.
um, man, where to start? I mean, let's start from the beginning. Let's start from how we met each other.
Mm-hmm.
So so Timo and I met in a high school in Mexico. I currently reside in Mexico. He moved to the U.S. and for some reason, fucking the stars aligned, and he and I ended up in the same classroom in high school as complete strangers. He didn't know how to speak a lot of Spanish. I still think he doesn't know how to speak a lot of Spanish. He still speaks it very,
Still pretty
very
broken.
badly,
Still
very
pretty broken.
broken. However, I did know how to speak a little bit of English, so I think that kind of settled our friendship, we liked it or not.
You know English? Holy hell!
Yeah,
How did that happen?
it's
How
news to
how are we
me.
talking, man?
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, I think it's something about brain trauma. You know,
a lot of traumas.
a lot of
A
traumas,
lot of
a
traumas.
lot of traumas from before that age. Even we'll touch on those later, I guess.
That's another story for another time.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, so I met Gigi uh, in Mexico. So it all started out as an exchange student program that I got sent to from my private school to the U.S. From the U.S. to Mexico, and then my dad was like, "Hey, I'm running I'm running a mining company. I would like to move back to my hometown so that you can learn about Mexican culture. And I'm like, well, if we have to, okay, it's two birds with one stone. I'll get my exchange student program stuff done, and I'll also get to learn the culture. So we got sent to Calvillo, Aguascalientes, Mexico. Small little town in bumfuck nowhere. But
Very comfy.
yeah, it's nice. I always considered it to be a village, but people there would always correct me and go, "No, it's a municipality. It's a small, it's a micro city." And I'm like, "Okay."
I consider it a town, or a small city or a town.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I went to. I started off going to a school, uh, would be the equivalent of middle school, called La Secundaria Iscoatl.
You,
Uh, yeah, believe it or not, that's an Aztec name. That's pretty cool.
yeah, that's a lot of places here have like Aztec or pre-Hispanic names, and
Mm-hmm.
if you lived in Mexico your whole life, you look at it and it's like, oh, what's that? That's an X followed by a C followed by an H followed by an O followed by a T by an L, and you pronounce it perfectly. But I've seen people that even Spanish-speaking people who come from Spain
Mm-hmm.
and look at, for example, Iscoatl, which is I said O no I said Coatl, and they just look at it and like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
But once you lived in a Latin speaking country, in a place like Mexico, in a place like Peru or South America, you look at those things and you're like, oh, it's Coatl, Xochitl.
Mm-hmm.
You know how to pronounce them.
Because my real name is Cuauhtemoc, uh, which, funny enough, stands for diving eagle in Nahuatl, which is the Aztec language. I actually learned how to speak Nahuatl before Spanish, believe it or
Oh,
not.
you did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's the first time I've known of this.
Like, I
Uh,
always thought it was, like, ironic that my dad would teach me Nahuatl before Spanish, because whenever I was here in the U.S., I'd always have to speak Spanish to or my family would speak Spanish to me, and I would ask my cousins what's what. But in Mexico, I didn't have anyone to ask for help. Like, everything's in a foreign language. I didn't understand anything, and like,
and middle school is a horrible time to be an outcast.
oh, yeah, especially with Iscoatl. So, which brings me to my time there before meeting Gigi. So there, literally on my first day, I go to the class, I sit down, and the teacher starts asking me questions in Spanish, and I'm like, yo no hablo español, because I literally did not speak Spanish, and she took offense to that and gave me gave me a citation, or at least over there we call them reportes.
Yeah.
And I got sent to the principal's office so often that that you know they became better friends to me than most people in that fucking school.
That's funny, and my experience very much mirrors Timo's. Of course, I do know how to speak Spanish. I'm a native speaker. However, what happened with me was I arrived a week after class started because during break before middle school started, I went to the U.S. to visit my family over there. So I came back like a week later, and I'm pretty sure everyone who has ever been in school can relate. If you are a little bit late to the punch, you become an outcast, and being an outcast is very bad.
It's never fun.
Yeah, it's fun, and very much like Timo, I was sent to the principal's office very often, for a variety of reasons, many different reasons. And I ended up becoming better friends with the teachers than I did with the other students. So
That's
I guess that's another thing that makes us friends.
mm-hmm. Like, we have so much in common.
Yeah.
But yeah, but something that struck me on that first day is that uh, like when lunch period hit, uh, the the big, I guess, bullies of that classroom came up and just literally started beating the crap out of me. I was like, what is going on? Why am I getting punched on my first day of school? The kid that they sent to in my stead for the exchange student program to the US got iPads, MacBooks, and whatnot on his first day. On
You
my
got
first
eye
day in Mexico,
patches
I got eye
and
patches, a broken nose. Uh,
yeah.
it was pretty fun, but that doesn't stop the amount of damage I took at that at that school. So
And
it's
another thing, because had he and I been um so schools in Mexico have two periods. At least up to middle school they have two periods. They have an early morning period and a late afternoon period. I was in the early morning, he was in the late afternoon. I'm sure that if we both had been on the same period, probably about 50% of the shit that happened to the two of us wouldn't have happened because they probably would have been like, oh, this guy doesn't know how to speak Spanish and this guy knows how to speak English a lot. Let's just put them together.
yeah.
So yeah,
Um,
that
I'm just gonna really skim straight through his squad to one of the my last days there, where uh, I remember sitting in class. There's this girl running around trying to hit my friend with like a baseball bat or like a metal pipe,
oh,
and
this story.
I just remember her like tripping right in front of me. After like I didn't stop her or anything. Like I didn't try tripping her. She didn't even stumble on me. She just fell right in front of me, like 1 or 2 meters in front of me, looks straight at me, and starts beating the crap out of me with that metal pipe. All I remember was getting like one swing in the head, and then everything's black. I wake up in the hospital with a broken orbital, a punctured lung, uh,
And a
or,
death certificate.
yeah, and a death certificate. I died that day. Legally. My heart stopped and they used the defibrillator on me after my brain and heart had stopped responding to the electrical signals due to the lack of oxygen because my lungs were punctured and filled with blood. All I remember, I don't remember the defibrillator, but I do remember this oil shot. Now, I don't want to get too graphic, but this there was a big old syringe that they stuck into my chest to release the blood that's inside of my chest to allow for me to breathe. I just remember that waking up to a big syringe in my chest and then hearing my parents yell at me, being like, "Oh, how could you get yourself into a situation like this? We're disappointed
How
with you."
could you get killed? How could you? How
Yeah,
dare
what
you
is
get
wrong
killed?
with you? Why would you want to get beat up and
Yeah.
hit in the side of the head or whatever she did?
What are you, an idiot?
Yeah, what are you, an
Just
idiot?
don't do that, forehead.
Yeah. Stop getting hit in the head by someone else's attack. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? No, like
Just dodge.
ever since then, like I became super conscious of like everything that I would do, my surroundings, just because I didn't want to get hit again. So now I'm like in this. I surround myself in like this cocoon and this shell that when I moved on to Cebeta 61, which is the high school,
The high school we met.
it it really it it was it was polarizing from me being in this big old cocoon and then seeing this guy who's complimenting this shitty ass drawing I did, and he speaks in English, and I look at him, I'm like, what the hell? This is that my brain translating Spanish to English really well, or is he
Have I
actually speaking?
finally achieved it? Have I learned Spanish?
Have I learned the local tongue? Look up and I see this big guy, really intimidating, and he's staring at me. He goes, "Hmm, that's a cool drawing." And I'm like, hi, how are you? You're
you
like,
you took out your wallet like out of instinct. Okay, here's my lunch money.
yeah, just take it now. Save me the
Well,
pain.
I'll
But
save you the time. You save me the pain.
but yeah, I meet this guy, and then we start bonding from, I guess,
From there,
drawing. Dude,
yeah.
it's so funny. Like,
Oh yeah, and
mhm,
again, I mirror a lot of what he went through in middle school. I of course I didn't get killed. I did get nearly stabbed during the class. A kid just I was standing outside and he came up behind me and took out a pocket knife and was like putting it to my back and was like, "You fucking don't mess with me" and whatnot. And the same when I went into high school, I was disillusioned. I was disenchanted with the idea of people, and I was like, I'll just come in, I'll do my shit, I'll leave home, and that's what's going to happen. And
yeah.
then, which by the way, I think you don't know this, but unlike in middle school for high school, I went in one day earlier because the Cevetas, not only the one we went through, but I think all of them don't start school on Monday. Like the first day of school is not Monday, is Tuesday,
Hmm.
and then they have Mondays after the first week they have Mondays. But on the first week, school starts on Tuesday. I didn't know this, so I went in on Monday. I was very nicely dressed. I sit down, and a lot of the teachers come by, and they are like, "Oh, hi. Oh, how you doing?" And I realize it's 10 a.m. and no one's coming, so I'm like, huh, maybe this is not happening. Maybe I was earlier, and I asked one of the teachers, like, oh no, class starts tomorrow, and I'm like, oh okay, and I leave.
Lovely.
Lovely. So yeah, so I come in. I made a fool of myself by I don't know if you remember this, but they were asking us about what were we most afraid of coming into a new high school,
Hmm.
and I just wrote the most redundant thing ever. Like I think it was something like not having the knowledge to know what is needed to be known in this academy of knowledge or something like that. I was
Beautiful.
very nervous. I was very nervous. So recess comes and I step out and I see this guy sitting down and he's drawing and I'm like, oh, that's a nice drawing because I tried to draw on the same style, and I approach him like, hey, that's a pretty cool drawing, and he just looks at me. I don't think you even responded. I think you were just like, uh huh, just
Doki
kept
doki.
looking at me, and I sat next to you. I sat next to you, and I just continued doing that until one day during an English class. I think I said snipers may wear diapers, but they get all the ladies in English. And I think that's the first time you heard me speak English. And I just saw you look at me, your eyes wide open,
I'm like, oh,
and that was it.
oh, here's another idiot that I can talk to.
Yeah, and
Scam him out of a
and
friendship.
and from there on out, we kind of became inseparable.
Hmm. I think it took like a week before we actually started to talk.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, we both were very. I mean, it sounds a little extreme to say, but we were both pretty heartbroken
mm,
by the time we entered high school, and it was just one of those things where two broken pieces just ended up looking good together,
mm,
and we became friends.
like pretty quickly too.
Yeah, I mean, does it helps that we both had a pretty shitty middle school experience, same middle school even,
Yep.
um, and we had a lot of things in common. We liked a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah. And I think we were talking like one of the first like game topics that we got on about was Halo.
Yeah,
Like man, Halo, Legend of Zelda, and Kirby were
Yeah.
were the first topics that we got onto. But moreover than that, all I remember from like the first couple of months into our relationship was the phrase "I hate you."
I fucking hate you, dude. Also, you say relationship as if we dated back then, which I mean, some may say we actually did because of how much time we just spent together, right?
Hey, we bros before hoes.
We're bros. We're bros. We bros. We tighter than a couple. We're bros.
Yeah, we
But
no
yeah,
homo, no homo. I got socks
no
on.
homo,
I
no
got
homo.
socks on. It's fine.
I
It's
actually
fine.
do have socks on. It's the only thing I have on right now.
Oh,
Um,
mm.
just kidding, just kidding. But
He's not kidding.
yeah. So he would make like amazing drawings that I would never be able to do.
They're garbage.
Um, and he would say that he's like, no, this is garbage, and I would just look at him and be like, I fucking hate you, dude. What the fuck?
He did suck. I made the equivalent of stick figures. Like it. I don't know. I just trying to
And
make like quick doodles. Uh,
yeah, and they were good. They were good doodles.
they weren't good enough. That's why I made like so many different like my drawing phases went through evolutions because like I would practice the same technique over and over and over again until I get to a point where I move on to like a different style, and then I merge the two and it evolves into like a new form. I think I made it up to 7 at one point. I almost got into hyperrealism,
Um,
but
I do remember that.
but since then I like ever since Mexico or after Mexico I stopped.
I mean, the same with me. After you, it's almost like if we need to be there for each other to continue drawing because I also haven't drawn a lot since you left.
Like the only drawings I do now are engineering sketches. Like whether or not it's for a product we're trying to prototype, we're going through the R&D phase. But other than that, it's ah, I don't know. Like not having a bro around just kind of took out the passion for it.
Yeah, I mean, granted, we did have so not to toot our own horns, but I'm gonna toot our own horns. We were kind of like the smartest kids in class.
We're hella nerds.
We were hella nerds. So during tests, during classwork or whatnot, if we could, we would pair together. We would finish quickly. And I remember this. I had told you during that recess. I told you, oh yeah, like this game that I've heard is played where you draw something and then the next person takes the last syllable of what you drew and has to draw something that starts with that syllable.
No, the Japanese
And you,
drawing game.
yeah, the Japanese drawing game. And you were like, oh, that sounds like fun. We should try that. And we had a test that day and we finished the test and they didn't allow us to leave because I don't know. So when I saw that he gave his test back and when I had given mine back, I just grabbed a piece of paper from one of my notebooks and I drew on it and I wrote what I drew and I passed it on to him and that would become something we did almost every day.
Yeah, we gotta do more of that. Maybe for like a stream or something. I think that'll be pretty fun.
Yeah, probably. We should do that because it's very fun. It was very fun. It was honestly great because at the end, when we finally got out of class, we would talk about it and we will laugh about it. I think that also helped a lot to help us become as close as we did.
Mm-hmm.
That and well, there are two events. There's two things that helped us become very close. One that is considerably happy, one that is not as happy. So I'll first touch on the happy one. There was here in Mexico. There are like cyber cafes, right? There's places where there's a lot of computers. People go there to do homework and whatnot, but mainly they go there to play games. And a lot of those places also come equipped with Xbox or PlayStation, depending on the place you go. Um, so Timo and I and other friends of ours would go to this place called Grinch, El Grinch, and we would go there and we would play Call of Duty Black Ops 2. I think I think there were times where we went in there when we came out of school, so around like 3 p.m., and
Yeah.
we would leave at dusk when the sun was going
When the
down.
place would close up.
What?
Like when the place would close up. I remember like this
Yeah,
one time where we were the last people in there and they're just waiting for us to
yeah.
leave.
I think. And those were great times, dude. We had so much fun. I remember. I think this is one of my favorite memories. Is it was I think it was a holiday. We didn't have school that day, and I was just laying on my bed. I was like, "Fuck, I'm bored. Fuck it,
Oh,
I'm
I
gonna
know this
walk
one.
over. I'm gonna walk over to Tima's house because he didn't live all that far away from. It's like 20-minute walk at most. Um, so and people in Calvillo usually walk everywhere. Um, so I get up, I put on clothes, and I grab some money. I tell to my mom, "Hey, I'm gonna go out with my friends. I'll be back later." And she's like, "Okay, yeah, be careful." And I leave, and I start walking over to Tima's house. No shit. Halfway through, I see him coming over, and he looks at me and goes like, "I was just going over to your house because I was bored."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, I guess time to do something." We tried to go pick up one of our other friends to go to El Grinch and play, and we get there. We knock on his door. His parents come out and they tell us, "Oh no, he's not here. He grabbed another friend and went to El Grinch." And we're like, "No shit, dude,
What a
no shit."
coincidence.
And we go there, and our other true friends that we play with are already there,
Just waiting for us.
just waiting for us. It was magical. Like if people ever tell you that God doesn't exist, that alone makes me think twice. Like, nah, yeah, there were some higher forces moving us that day.
There had to have been. It's too much of a coincidence.
It's too much of a coincidence. I mean, just the fact that we met each other
Yeah.
when we did it's a huge coincidence.
Mm-hmm. Oh, oh. Here's another fun memory I keep only because of how stupid it is. So, uh, at our school, we had like this at the student store where you could buy like pencils, stationery, rulers, whatnot, school
Yeah,
supplies.
yeah.
I because I drew a lot and I made like a lot of well, I started doing engineering designs way back then. So I bought a metal ruler. Well,
Oh,
I had bought two by mistake, and one I kept in my backpack, and the other one, well, I was just messing around with it. We're surrounded by a group of friends. We are just talking, and then they were like, "Hey, Timo, I used to do martial arts. Can you kick it up really high, like when someone's holding it up really high, like see if you could kick it." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So
so what
Gigi,
does he do?
so
He
Gigi
he
grabs
grabs
it.
the tallest person. I grabbed the ruler. I put it up. He's like, "No, just a little bit down. No, a little bit more up. Okay, there. That's perfect."
Yeah.
And I'm holding it there. I'm like, "Well, this is." I'm holding it very hard too. It's like he's not kicking this piece of shit out of my hand.
Nah, nah, man. I warmed up. I got up, kicked that stupid ruler, and it made like the most terrifying shing noise where
Uh,
it's up in the
it's
air,
like
it's spinning, everyone's freaking out. It's like,
we
oh
all
shit,
ran
oh
for
shit.
cover. We're like dead ass. We'll run for cover. It sounded like I'm not kidding. It sounded like in a TV show and an anime cartoon when you have the samurai that unsheaths and resheaths his sword. Sounded exactly like that.
It's
It
like
was
it's a really
terrifying.
specific noise.
Yeah,
It was
it was a
scary. Like
terrifying noise.
when you hear it, it's making like this like ying 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 sound up in the air, and we can't even see it because it's like bright as hell. Uh,
And it's above us.
yeah, so we start running around. I think me and Gigi bumped into each other, like, ah, shit, ah, ah. Either direction, so it hits the ground, and you have like people who are in their class staring out their windows, seeing a bunch of idiots running away from a
Like
metal
chickens
roof.
without heads.
We're
Uh,
just screaming, like, oh no, oh no, ah! That,
but yeah, no, you punched me a lot.
oh yeah,
I
I
know you
remember
did
that.
martial arts because I would be standing or sitting or doing whatever when we were in free time. He would just come by, put his hand on my arm, and at first I didn't know what he was doing. The first few times I was like, "What the fuck?" And then he would do nothing. 10 seconds after he finished that, he would just punch me in the arm, and it would hurt. And was like, "What did you do?" And he was like, "I wanted to see if I could hit your pressure points."
Oh, that's a fun time. I
Yeah,
I had like a lot
and
of pent up aggression. I took out my stress on training.
me. And I remember this one time. Um, I knocked you out. Well, I knocked the wind out of you,
Oh
and
yeah,
you
big old
fell
slap
down.
on the back.
Yeah. No, I think it was in the chest, wasn't it?
No, no, I remember it. So one day you got fed up with like me punching
Your
your arm,
bullshit.
and then I tried like running around you doing circles to try to get a get to lower your guard so I can start poking pressure points, see if I can make you paralyzed from the waist down. And then
He's my best friend, by the way.
uh,
I don't think I love a man more than I love him. Um, hey, my best friend, by the way, ran around in circles trying to make me paralyzed from the waist down.
yeah. uh, all I remember is like looking from the corner of my eye, like because there's this girl I had a crush on. I turn over and she says something. I couldn't hear it, and bam, Gigi slaps me on my back, and I just remember like I couldn't breathe. I was on the ground like, well,
Isn't this the consequences of my own actions?
yeah. When will
Yeah,
you learn?
because
When will you learn?
a lot of people, to this day, a lot of people think that they look at me as like I'm a big towering man with a very big frame, and they think, oh, he's probably slow as balls. I'm not slow.
Mm-mm.
I'm quite dexterous.
Oh yeah. It
Not as much as Timo, granted. He's very fast,
ball of
or at
cookie.
least he was back then. You used to be the star of the football team.
Yeah, but they would always put me as a goalie because they're
Yeah,
like,
because
you have
you,
they're like, oh, you have the highest reaction speed. I'm like, that doesn't say a lot. But okay.
I think during the in school tournament, they only managed to like land a single goal on you,
Oh yeah, and it broke my watch.
and it broke you had a fucking time traveler watch.
Oh, I remember that. What I used to do out of sheer boredom would be like to tune my watch so perfectly with the bell.
With the bell. I remember that. So for full context, he had like this huge and I mean very big watch. Like you looked at it and it was very chunky, and it had like a bunch of mechanism to it, a lot of buttons and whatnot. So and to just to flex on people, right? He would be sitting there, and we will be talking with him, because usually by then the teachers no longer give a shit, and then he would go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then he would just fucking. I don't remember if you like did the finger thing, like
Yep.
snapped your fingers or
No,
something, and
like
then the bell will sound, and we're like, why? How?
I
How
did the
do you
finger
do that?
guns.
Yeah,
Oh my god, I remember that. Like, that's how boring school was. Everything they were
yeah.
teaching there, I had already learned from private school. So it's just going through the same thing over and over again. So
And I mean, like, you know, take it for from people like Timo and I, who are, you know, who already left our student years. Well, I guess Timo is still in Harvard, but we left high school behind a long time ago.
mhm.
High school should be enjoyed with people. The classes are boring, and what they teach you there may or may not be important depending on what you go to study
It wasn't
afterwards.
important. At least not for me.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that I learned there also it wasn't important for me. However, make friends. Make
Yeah,
friends in high
make
school.
memories.
That's Yeah, make memories. High school is for memories. It's for making friends. I'm pretty sure that because I look very fondly back on high school. I look back at high school. I'm like, man, I wish I could relive those days. Even though some of the worst stuff that ever happened to me happened in high school. I'll get into that in a second. um I still look back on it very fondly because of the great friendships I made back then. And I mean, the greatest of them all is Timo, who is still my friend to this day, even though I think for the most part of the time we've known each other, we've been in two different parts of the world.
Oh yeah.
Like, so you know, I appreciate Timo. I love him with all my heart because, and let's get into this. This is another reason why he's such a good friend of mine. Why I appreciate him as much. So growing up, I had an older brother. He was 4 years older than me, and growing up, he was the only friend I had. He was my closest friend, my best friend. And when I entered high school, he got really sick, and during second year of high school, he tragically passed away, and I couldn't take it. I ended up leaving my house for like a week or two, unable to cope with the loss, unable to mourn. And when I finally decided to come back, well, I was very sad. I couldn't take it. I was because for the longest time he and I shared a room, and now, well, I had this big ass room, this big ass bed, all for myself, and it felt very lonely. So I'm there, I'm sad, and then suddenly my mom comes over and goes like, "Hey, they're looking for you." I'm like, "Who's looking for me? I don't have friends." And I go out and I see Timo and another very close friend of ours, and they're both like, "We came for you, and we ain't letting you go until you're happy." And they grabbed me and they took me out of my house. Little did I know, right, that the two of them had independently of each other decided at that time, at that day, to go for me. They didn't plan it beforehand. They didn't meet
Mhm.
each other beforehand. They both met.
Wait,
Oh,
my bad.
uh, don't worry about it. They both met at at my doorstep.
Meth.
That
Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
they both did math at my doors. Yeah, they both met at my doorstep, and they decided, we appreciate you, we like you, you are a friend, and you're going through hard times, and they I still remember that Sunday, and then we still talk about that Sunday whenever it gets brought up because of just how much it happened and how it meant a lot to me. Sincerely, it meant the world.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
from my perspective, it was like Rule and I were like, you know what? It's boring today. Where's Gigi at? We need Gigi. We go to his place, and then yeah, and then everything else is history.
Yeah. And here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Man, high school was wild. I remember how in high school. So of course, in high school in Mexico, they give us English lessons. They want us to learn English. Timo already knew English. He was a native speaker. So some teachers looked at him and were like, "You don't need to be in this class. Just leave." But other teachers wanted him to become the teacher. I don't
Oh
know if you remember that.
God, yeah, I remembered that. I had to teach.
Yeah.
That that
And
wasn't fun.
something that was fun, however, was there are there's an inter-school competition for cebetas
Oh,
called Intercebetas. And they usually have a bunch of different um, tournaments from sports, chess. They even have some for literature, speech crafting, spoken word, and what I'm getting at is they had one for English. So everyone in our classroom, when the time was coming for the intercebetas to happen, were like, well, I mean, we have English on lockdown, right? Because we have Timo here. Timo being one of the biggest, he knows English. He knows a lot of English. More so than a regular native speaker. So we were confident that he was going to be able to make it. So what happens? Principal comes over and tells us, yeah, no, he's banned from participating in that one.
yep. I refuse.
uh,
I refuse to do it.
yeah,
I just remember sitting in like the testing hall. They're going around asking everyone where they were from. Uh, there was a friend of mine who she was also from the U.S. She's from Colorado, and we were sent by our school to do an English competition. I thought it was unfair for those who are not native speakers to be in this competition with native speakers. It just didn't make sense. Until after I realized that everyone in that competition was from the US.
yep. And the funniest part was because they didn't send him, they sent the second best thing, which was me,
Yeah.
and I won. I fucking destroyed everyone.
Like I just straight up just didn't do the competition. Cuz
Yeah,
for my thing it was like translate this in English. Like for example, el perro está sentado. The dog is sitting. It's like kindergarten level English. And I'm just looking at this and while they're asking where everyone's from, I'm like, look, I can't be a part of this competition. I am from the US. I am an exchange student. The school sent me because I know English. I feel like this is cheating and I refuse to be a part of this. And they're like,
yeah.
oh, okay. And I just remember my friend looking at me going like, when they're referring to where you're from, they meant what school you're from, what, not where you're from. I'm like, oh, okay, but my point still stands. Like, I refuse to cheat. And she's like, okay, but I'm going to. And she
That's
did,
nice and all.
and she did end up winning,
Yep.
or at least,
This was a different year.
yeah, at
Just
least for that
to
year.
Yeah,
for the next
because
year.
I think
What's
that
up?
was second year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because of what happened with my brother, I ended up losing a year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I went year one. That's the one I won, and then for year two I wasn't there.
Mm-hmm. But like, I don't think I made it through all the way up to Sabeth. I think I left on third year.
Yeah, third year you left.
Yeah, I went to the U.S.
You had left already by the time I went back in.
Mm-hmm. But oh, yeah, I just couldn't cheat, and I still won't. Like, um, I in terms of finances, I'll get to that in another podcast. But like even then, uh, if if let's say you or I had won the lottery, I will refuse to use that money to get something that I actually wanted to get. In my instance, I'm hyper passionate about getting a a McLaren. It's a supercar, a McLaren 570S specifically. But even if I had won the lottery, I will refuse to buy it with that money. I would rather get it with hard earned cash. I may be retired, but I still work part time jobs that I'm still trying to reach that goal. But again, that's something for another instance, but it's just like I don't know, it's just a part of me like I just can't. I want to work for it. I want it to
Yeah.
mean something. Otherwise, it's like what's the point?
As
So
for me,
it's
I wish there was a much more grandiose story about how I learned English, because Timo has a lot of grandiose stories of how he learned languages. He knows a lot of languages. I don't know if you still know most of them.
yeah, I still have to practice.
Yeah, but he knows a lot of languages. I remember um, back in high school, he would be telling us about everything he knows. I wish I could say I broke my back learning English, but that's not the case. Timo, do you remember how I learned English?
Wasn't it talking to your brother and playing games?
No, no. It was traumatic brain injury.
Oh.
So when I was a kid, I was still in elementary school. I was almost out of it, but I was still there. My parents took me and my brother to a pool by a public uh park here in Calvillo, the big park, right?
Oh yeah.
That's what everyone calls it. So um so I so we went there and I'm playing around in the pool. You know, I'm a child. I'm a hyperactive child, having lots of fun. And I do think to myself, I'll do a cannonball. So I do a cannonball, and then when I'm falling, I'm like, I've been in the air way too long. Maybe I'm underwater already, and I need to go grasp for air. So I pull my head back just in time so that the back of my head hits the border of the pool.
Ooh.
And after that, what I remember is that they quickly grabbed me and took me to the hospital that is right next to the park, because there's a hospital next to the park. They took me there and they're like, "No, yeah, he kind of cracked his skull very badly." And they put some stitches on there. I still have the stitch. Well, not I don't have the stitches, but I still have the scar. Um, and yeah, after that, we went to the US. We came back from the US, and I now I knew how to speak English. I didn't know a lick of English before that. Um, and the English I knew after that was very broken. However, slowly but surely, I've been polishing it.
Mm-hmm.
That
I can't
was
tell. I, like I can't tell what he says anymore. Every time he
yeah.
speaks, I'm like, what is he saying? What language
What
is this?
what is this fucking little man?
Okay. Okay.
uh,
No, but yeah. Um. Oh, which reminds me. Let's we got to move on to the to our special segment. So we have this segment that we decided to make called Gigi. What the fuck did you read this time? Can you explain it,
So
Gigi?
I have a tendency of going into manga or comics or anime or whatever and just watch something random. Just watch or read something random just for fun. And sometimes, you hit gold and you get hooked onto something. Sometimes you get recommended Boku no Pico. Um, but that is the way of life. So recently, I got recommended and I've been reading the manga and watching the anime because the manga doesn't have a localization to English. Ranking of Kings, which a lot of people probably, if you've been into anime for a little bit, you probably have heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Crunchyroll is hard pushing for it. Like
Yeah,
they hard push for it,
it's good.
and it's good. It's really good. Reading the mangaka said, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, or it could have been like a translation error, that when he started, he wanted it not to be a manga, but to be like a picture book. But
Mm-hmm.
he later decided he wanted to make it a manga, and the manga looks cute. Like I'm not gonna say it looks like fucking One Punch Man, but the manga one, not the one made by one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say it's like a masterpiece where every panel is it's an art piece. It's not Berserk either.
No,
Um,
it's almost like a kid's storybook.
yeah,
Like
and it's cute. It fits a lot.
I can't remember what story it was. It has the art style of like this one American book that we always used to read, where it's this kid with a crayon. He had this crayon and he would like draw kingdoms. He would draw stuff that imaginary things that would become real for his world.
Yeah,
And that's the kind of art style it was. But it's
and it
dark.
yeah, it's hella dark, and I think the anime just helped make the art style pop even more. The anime looks like an like an old anime, like
Mm-hmm.
those old animes that were hand drawn piece by piece. However, with the fluidity of modern anime,
It's
and
it's pretty beautiful.
and the soundtrack. Holy mother of God, the soundtrack is amazing. I still listen to the second opening on repeat. It's just
Oh
so
yeah,
good.
yeah. Compared to like the first one.
Yeah, because the first one is it's trying it's like a Venus flytrap. The first one is trying to lure you in with this cutesy appearance, this cutesy visual, the cutesy song, and it's like, haha, look, funny cute kid is going off on a big adventure to become a king. And then the
Second opening.
the second opening says, and then hilarity happened. Lots and lots of hilarity happened.
And then life
It's
happened.
Yeah, it's funny how you go from the first few chapters of, I'm not going to spoil it, but for those who don't know what the show is about, it's about this kid called Boji, who is the prince of a big kingdom. His dad was what, the seventh ranked king. So in this world, kings are ranked by their might, their wisdom, and how benevolent they are. And his dad is the seventh, I think seventh or sixth. It's in the top 10, and he wants to be a great king for himself. However, he's deaf and he cannot talk because he was born deaf. He
Mm-hmm.
also doesn't have any strength. He cannot lift swords. He cannot fight. Um, and everyone always says that his younger brother is more fit to be king because of all of this.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
very quickly, you like in the first two chapters of the anime, just two chapters of the anime, and you fall in love, deeply in love with this kid, with the main character. He is just amazing, and in the show, just is cute. and the characters are surprisingly deep. Like the least deep of the characters is Boji himself, the protagonist, but he doesn't need to have that depthness. He is as you see him. He's a bundle of just good vibes, of cuteness, of innocence, of wanting to be a better person.
Yeah.
But every other character is like at first you think, oh, this character is horrible. I hate them, and later down the line, you're cheering for them for their success, for them to become better. And then you see this character that you think, oh, this character is pretty cool. I like him. Just to be like, this character's a son of a bitch. I fucking hate him. How he dares he? And then after that, bring you back around to say like, please don't die, dude. I love you. I'm sorry for everything I said about you.
Yeah.
It's it's incredible.
Like there's so many uh like if we start to do like a deeper analysis of this, I think this is like a show, like an anime parents with disabled kids should watch,
Oh
because
yeah.
it has some really deep meanings out there. Like for one of them, or one that I found, was that like uh parents are the first people to get in the way of their disabled child's development. They don't
Hmm.
allow them to grow because of course the
They think
parent,
they're frail.
yeah, they think they're frail. They're afraid of how the world will treat their child. Yes, it's it's stuff like that like makes the story so much, like so much more
Better. Yeah.
vivid. Yeah,
And there
it's
there is this thing in literature where it's called added value. It also happens in marketing and business where more so than what they're selling you or what they're telling you, you yourself are adding something onto it, be it emotional or otherwise. And Ranking of Kings is very good at that added value because not only is it telling you this story, but you yourself, if you start thinking about it, give it um, extra value.
mm, there's so much to it. Like I
Yeah.
think Western media, like movies and whatnot, should really take a step back from like their uh, like this whole inclusiveness thing, and just watch Ranking of Kings to show how to properly show like someone with disabilities, for example.
Yeah, because Boji, part of Boji's character is that he's deaf,
But that's
but it's not the whole.
it's not his personality.
Yeah, it's not his personality. It's not like at every part of the way to remind you, oh, he's deaf. No, he's deaf. He cannot hear people, but he can read lips,
Mm-hmm.
and he knows sign language, and he has this friend of him called Kage, who is a shadow, who can understand him, and he would then translate what Boji's meaning to say to other people, if not that those other people already understand what he's saying. And but there's so much more to his character than he's deaf.
Mm-hmm.
Being deaf is part of his character, but he is also brave. He's also courageous. He's also kind. He's also fast. He's also dexterous. He's, you know,
So it's more in the essence that it's like he's all these things, but he just so happens to be
yeah,
deaf.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
perfectly implemented.
and that is something that I've always told people when they're talking to me about why I don't like X or Y character, and they tell me, "Oh, it's because he's of this or that." It's no, I don't like. For example, there's the big meme of Netflix. Um, there's this big meme of Netflix being like, oh, let's make every character gay and their personalities that they're gay and that they like being gay. No, the way you write those characters, the way you are inclusive is write a character that just so happens to be.
Mm-hmm. Like
And I think, yeah,
no one has a problem with like this whole generation of diversity and inclusiveness. No one has a problem with someone who's black, who's gay, who's disabled. What people do have a problem with is that when that's all they are, they're just so
yeah,
hollow. Like there's no story to them. They're not a
and it's
character more than they're
a
what.
token,
Yeah, they're just
and
there.
it's bad. Yeah, it's bad for both sides, for both the people who want to have representation and the people who want to have a good story.
Mm. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much wraps up our.
Our thoughts on the matter.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
it's good having you guys listen to our podcast today. We hope hope you enjoyed it, and we'll do more.
yeah, well, we'll continue talking, and hopefully you'll listen.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
we
you
we
have to.
have we have a yeah, we have a lot of things to tell, things to talk about, and we'll try and bring in more people so that they tell their stories. So they'll tell us what they have to say, and even if there's only like two or three people listening to us, I think it's still a very worthy thing to do to make this podcast. Maybe we didn't get into it this time, but eventually, I hope that this podcast will help people who have been in situations pretty much like mine or Timo, where you lose someone you it's very dear to you, or where you're in a situation that is not very good, and you can take it from us who have been through those situations, and maybe you'll be able to hear what you need to hear.
Mm-hmm. And well, thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you.
Popping
We'll
off.
see you next time.